I'm just gonna kind of chat. I hope that's okay. Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith, and today I'm here to bring you my Halloween 2020 video. Kind of obligatory. I made a video for Halloween last year. I made a video called Spooky Reading for Scaredy Cats, I believe it was called. It's a very old video now, so I wanted to make a new one. I had vague ideas of doing a whole bunch of Halloween themed videos, but as someone who literally never ever reads anything the slightest bit adjacent to horror, or even like a thriller, it felt a bit weird to be like, here's all the spooky books, because I don't read a huge amount of spooky books unless you count like necromancy as spooky, which I do. So I was worried that I was just going to be bringing you a rehash of last year's video, but I've decided that number one, last year's video was on my phone, not on a proper camera, and I've read a lot of stuff since then, and number two, I thought it would be interesting to make a Halloween video a year on and see what features on both lists, see what my mind's been changed about, see what doesn't come up anymore, who's been cancelled in the meantime. So yeah, I'm just bringing you, I think 10? Yes. 10 Halloween recommendations that were also kind of like fall, winter, autumn, vaguely spooky, atmospheric kind of reading. I've fudged it a little bit, but you'll have to just deal with it. And also, who knows, by this time next year I could be a horror aficionado. Unlikely, but maybe. The first book on this list is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This has a full dedicated review up on my channel, you can go and check that out. But if you don't fancy doing that, allow me to tell you all about it. This is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling if the 12 Dancing Princesses happened also in a haunted house, or haunted mansion in a terrifying coastal town. Yes, everything about this is great. I talked oodles in that review about the atmosphere in this book. I just think it's exceptional. This is probably the closest thing I have to an actual like spooky book on my shelves. So if you are me and you want spooky level of book, this is the one I would go with. House of Salt and Sorrows, it's so good. The next thing I thought I would flag is actually a series. I'm not expecting you to read a series on Halloween, but you might want to start picking up Aliette de Bodard's Dominion of the Fallen series. So this is The House of Shattered Wings, The House of Binding Thorns, and The House of Sundering Flames. So this series is set in Paris in the aftermath of a magical war or a war in heaven, and we have these various different houses all at war with one another, trying to get angels so they can do magic, that kind of thing. And the reason I've included this on this list is there is just a lot of spooky moments throughout this series. There's a lot of people going into old abandoned churches in Paris and like old houses, and people being creepy in alleyways and that kind of thing. And as with many of the books on this list, it's not a spooky, scary book, but it's just got atmosphere and fades. Drink every time I say atmosphere. I think the post-apocalyptic, post-magical apocalypse Paris is it's just such a profoundly good setting, and that setting is kind of what sets this book apart and what brings it its place on this list. I associate this series and this world with, you know, the nights are getting longer, everything's going bad, that kind of thing. And I'm beginning to think I should have scripted this video, never mind. Veering off slightly, I have a witchy book, but this is witches meets YA contemporary. So if you are a YA contemporary reader and you're interested in doing some witchery, reading some books about witches, The Graces by Laura Eve. I reread this recently and I really enjoyed it. I don't rate the sequel, but this stands on its own. This is sort of like if you took a high school film, but it was set in England, and you added a witchy element to it. It's got that small town creepiness to it, and a lot of how much of this is real, how much of this is hysteria kind of thing. I think it's really, really good. Another pivot to a more fun, adventurous book, but in a setting that you might associate with Halloween kind of time. This is Library of the Unwritten by A.J. Hackworth. This is set in hell, in a library in hell, and the library just happens to be in hell. That's where it is. And it's a place where all of the unwritten books are kept. So all the people who've started a book and gone, nah, don't need to worry about it, that book is kept there. And the start of the story is head librarian Claire going out to fetch back one of the stories has escaped. As I say, this is actually a hugely fun story. It's sort of like a romp adventure kind of thing. It's not humorous, but it is really exciting and fun to go through. And it's also got a lot of hell in it, so there's that connection. And I think my brain just associates this cover with Halloween. This next book made it onto that Times 100 Best Fantasy Books of All Times list, which make what you want of that list. I was so excited to see this book on here. This is Dark and Deepest Dread by Anne-Marie McLemore. They are one of my favourite YA fantasy authors of all time. I will buy everything that they bring out, but this has been one of my favourites. This is their most recent book. In case you are listening to this and not looking, this is Dark and Deepest Red. I don't want to go into this in too much detail. It's sort of a dual timeline story featuring queer characters in both the present and the past, and there's magic involved in quite a significant way, a plague of people being forced to dance by wearing red shoes, that kind of thing. There's a lot of fairy tale in there. This is so, so good. And the reason I've included it on this list is partly because it's like vaguely threatening almost always, but also I think the idea of there being a specific time of year where magic things happen, I definitely associate with this time of year as well. This is probably the book on this list that I push at my friends most often. I really struggle with recommending Gideon the Ninth to people, and Harry the Ninth as well, but I think it would be weird to leave it off this list. This is lesbian necromancy, sci-fi meets fantasy meets all of the above. I have a hard time with this series. I really enjoy them overall, but the actual reading of them I find quite difficult because I think they are unnecessarily complicated, would maybe be where I go with it. But having said that, I have loads and loads of friends who have read them and absolutely love them. Let yourself go kind of easily through it. Don't try and understand everything the first time. I kind of lied earlier when I said I didn't have another Halloween-y book. I do. It is based on Frankenstein. Be not fooled by the pink cover. This is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. This is the book that I read on Halloween 2 years ago. So I just always associate it with Halloween, not just because it features Frankenstein. It's such a good look at Frankenstein through a different character's eyes. What I really love about this book is Elizabeth isn't painted as this perfect character who's pit against Frankenstein. She is in some ways kind of complicit, and it's a really interesting take on that whole story, as I say. I really think this is great. I really love Kirsten White's writing in this. It's probably one of my favourites of hers, and I've read most of what she's written. The next book I don't actually have a copy of. I think I unhauled it at some point, but that doesn't make it any less of a valid recommendation. I just didn't keep it, and I kind of regret it now. But I will put the cover up on screen. This is Strange Practice, and in this book we follow Dr. Greta Helsig, I think her name is. I will put it on screen if I've got it wrong. And she is essentially a doctor to the undead in this world where there are the undead in a bunch of places. And it is a fun mystery book. I actually really want to get another copy of it, or see if it's maybe in my wardrobe of shame where I never got rid of any of my unhauled books, and I kind of want to continue with the series. It's one of those books where I thought I wasn't into it, and now I kind of can't stop thinking about it, and I kind of want to read it again. So there you go. A bit more witchery, and another book that I've reviewed this year. This is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This is if you want kind of traditional witchy vibes. So this has a lot of like the double toil and trouble kind of spell work in it, but it's also featuring the women's suffrage movement in America, which is really quite interesting. It's a really good narrative. I think that's the biggest thing I took from it, is it's a really satisfying rise and fall in this book, and I think it's very, very good. If you haven't picked up a copy yet, why not go for it? Last book I want to bring up this year is Skinful of Shadows by Frances Hardinge. I had to put a Frances Hardinge book on this list. I think The Lie Tree is the spookier of the books, but firstly, this copy of Skinful of Shadows is gorgeous, and secondly, it features ghosts. So, you know, that makes sense. This features a young girl called Makepeace, who in her body, she has the ghost of a bear from childhood, and it's a really great story. It's Frances Hardinge. It goes to weird places. It does things that you would not expect, but it is so good. If you want something that's like pitched a little bit younger than some of the other stuff, this would be where I would go. In fact, if you've not read any Frances Hardinge yet, do it. This is me telling you, if you take nothing else from this video, you need to pick it up. That's me limiting the list down to 10. There are other books that I could kind of fudge into this and make work and explain that, like, oh, a bit of it happens on a dark and stormy night, so it counts as spooky. But maybe that's not the most kind of genuine thing I could do. That's also only books that I have on my shelves, except for Strange Practice. There have been a lot of NetGalley books that I could fit into this list. The Lantern's Ember is a big one. That's probably the most Halloween-y book I have ever read, but I don't think it's the best book I've ever read that could apply. You know. I also appreciate that I am filming this late in the day. If you wanted to actually read these books and obtain them in time for Halloween, that ship has sailed. But the great thing about being a little bit spooky deep down in your soul is that you can read these at any time. I would like your recommendations for Halloween books, Halloween videos you have filmed. Ooh, natural light is leaving me. I would love your recommendations of those. I would like, if you are a horror reader, say that 5 times fast, then I would love your horror recommendations, because I have a feeling I could really love it. Because I don't get on with spooky films because jump scares, but I don't think you can jump scare in a book, or can you? I would love your recommendations. Please plonk them down below. You can also let me know if you've read any of these, if there are any things that you think I should read before next year that aren't horror. There we go, we've got a full year for me to have new Halloween recommendations, and I would quite like it to be a more cohesive list next year, so let's see. While you're down there commenting, you can also follow me on all of my social media, that's linked below. You can subscribe, it makes me feel loved and appreciated. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. And our main character, whose name I've forgotten. This is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. That went quicker than I thought it was going to be, because I don't explain many of the plots, but never mind. Because I don't get on with scoopy films. Ooh, ghost noises.